You know what, guys? You ever have that feeling where things are they're just going along so smoothly that you kind of feel like there's not really any point of doing it anymore, and then this happens. This episode. Now, let me clarify it. Not all the episode was bad, and I'll get into that when I get into the actual discussion on the episode itself, but that ending, and just the way what they did to Don's character, it just makes me feel so much like, it just makes me feel like the agenda, or whatever it is that they are trying to make out Ray and Norman being more of the main characters than not just Emma, but like not even bringing Dawn or Gilda into this regard. That's just what I'm getting across here, and I'll explain that when we get into the part. But again, like I've been saying in these videos, it's that they seem to be taking away aspects of Emma's character, just making her more of the secondary protagonist when she's supposed to be the main character. You know what? Let's just go to the intro. Now, with the actual episode itself, there were some good bits about it. There were some fantastic bits that I thought really helped to enlighten and get the mood running. One of the examples is when, after the intro to the episode, or after the intro to the series is done, we get like the pendulum from the clock just swinging back and forth as it goes from Ray to Norman to Ray to Norman, and that kind of helps to build up the tension, because this takes place immediately after when Norman confronts Ray of being the traitor and being the spy for Mama, and to see that tension built up through the use of the pendulum, I thought that was really well handled, and it added to not just the tension but also the creepy atmosphere that was being built up through that moment in the episode. So again, there's moments like that I wholeheartedly approve of, because it adds to the atmosphere that they're trying to build on in the series. It's just the other things that they actually take out to compensate that just makes it so frustrating for me. And again, if you like the anime, that's fine. It's just me as a fan of the manga, it just makes me feel that much more frustrating that they're taking bits out in favour of anime filler bits. And even though this is an anime filler bit, it's a bit that I actually approve of, because it's building on the atmosphere to help enhance and build tension to the scene itself. Now, the conversation between Norman and Ray about him being the traitor, and basically all of that conversation that takes place in that room, that is verbatim, word for word, from the manga for the most part. And I'm glad that they included that in, because it needed to be included, because if they cut out anything, it would have felt rushed and been like, and not being very effective as much as it could be. And thankfully they kept all of that in. But again, it kind of like shot themselves in the foot, because now that they've devoted half the episode to that moment, it's kind of like making me fear that a lot of the other parts are just going to be like, okay, we're going to rush right through it without even having the time to build up and add tension to the scenes. And pretty much, like I said, pretty much it's the same, and I'm glad that they include that. And again, like I said, if they had more time, if they had more episodes to work with, I feel like this could have been like really much more effective, particularly when we don't get flashbacks like here, this one in particular, where we don't get this moment right here where we have Ray relaying information to Mama about Emma and Norman actually being the ones to actually find out, and again it adds more to the complexity of the characters to show that no, they're not just like these cutted characters. They have layers to them, and taking out things that actually establish those layers, it kind of like ruins the characters for them and just making them more cardboard cutouts. Like, Norman's the Mary Sue, Ray's like the emotionless, cold-hearted person, and Emma's just a happy-go-lucky person without any real characters to them that they get in droves in the manga. And again as well, it takes away from the actual mind games as well, because I don't know if the anime fans have noticed, but a lot of people that when they were actually getting really excited for the series, like, oh, it's a great mind game, a great battle of the minds and a great chess game. But again, taking away the inner thoughts of the characters, and we'll get into that in a moment, it kind of takes away from the actual mind games themselves, which just makes the series that much more captivating, because you don't know exactly what's going to happen next, and you don't know what emotions are going to come out in the characters' minds themselves that they keep hidden from others without actually openly expressing them. Again, showing that they are actually characters that have layers to them, and they don't have to necessarily reveal everything, every single information to the characters. They can actually have inner thoughts and be conflicted with certain inner thoughts and inner turmoils that are going on with them. Another thing that was actually downgraded on was the actual expressions on Ray in this particular moment and in these particular few chapters. And one example is this moment right here, where you can see Ray right here, this moment. I feel like in that because of like the shading on the actual panels themselves, it allowed them to give much more detail, be more in control than what they actually were in the anime itself. And to be honest, I might be wrong, but I don't think that this moment was actually said in the manga. Like, this particular line of dialogue was actually said in the manga, that in the anime, that everything was to prepare for this escape we're planning now. It might have been. I'm pretty sure it was, but again, because it was like so underplayed, it made me hard to actually even notice it at times in the episode, and it might be like blink and you'll miss it. Where this was like a critical key moment for Ray to show, like, oh my god, he actually has layers to him. He's not just like this cold, elusive guy. He can actually emote when he actually needs to emote. And again, some of the details in the manga that just can't be expressed, particularly in the anime, are these moments right here where you see Ray. Now, they did do a decent job with this particular moment, but I feel like just the fact that he had two very distinct expressions going on his face here, like you see the expression on the right side and the left side, and how they're very distinct from each other. And it just shows that he could, again, as a character, he can just switch back and forth from being like this cold, elusive guy, but like this psychotic nature guy who wants his plan to succeed by any means necessary. And again, the anime, I don't feel like it has actually been given justice to these expressions, which is a shame, because with the episode with the chase where they had Chrome, they really did that well, especially when she found Emma, and it just gave that moment, and it gave just like the dramatic boom on top of that. That actually was really effective, and the fact that they're just sort of like being a little bit underdeveloped in certain aspects, that just kind of makes me feel sad and makes me feel upset that we're not getting any really like outstanding, like holy shit expression moments that could actually be really well handled in the anime. And again, I know I keep bringing this up, but I feel like it's just such a hugely monumental thing that the anime is just absolutely ignoring. And again, it's the inner thoughts of the characters, and by removing the inner thoughts, it takes away a great deal from the complexity and pretty much how shady they can be at times, and it takes away from how Norman truly feels at certain points, particularly in this part right here, where it's like, so that sort of threat won't work anymore. Should I take the trump card and give up on taking everyone? Again, showing how conflicted he is on certain situations, how he wants Ray to be on their side, but at the same time he doesn't want to trick Emma, and he wants to actually give her the ideal and the goal that she wants, but at the same time they need Ray, and it's sort of like conflicting for him. And by taking away aspects of that character, it takes away from just how shady he can actually be and how much grey he actually is. Like, he could be manipulating both of them on each side, but the fact that we're not getting any inner thoughts just kind of takes away from that, and kind of takes away from the suspense as well, from the suspense and tension, like who can you actually really trust and who can't you trust? Because again, in this series, you can't trust anyone. Even Emma can't really trust anyone. I mean, she thinks that she can trust Ray and Norman, but at the same time, I feel like in the back of her mind that that there's still that little inkling that she can't trust them 100%. This pretty much is established by having the inner thoughts, because again, we can't trust what they're actually going to do, and by getting those inner thoughts, we're like thinking like, oh, are they going to do it? Are they not going to do it? But by taking that out of the anime, it takes away again from that attention, and why it makes the manga so good and so captivating, that you get to hear the inner thoughts of the characters themselves. And again, this is further emphasised when Norman goes on, should I take the trump card and give up on taking everyone else, or should I give up the trump card and risk him getting in the way of escaping with everyone? Because again, Ray doesn't want to necessarily take everyone at this point, but at the same time, he knows that the best way to actually get away from that is to actually manipulate Emma and trick them. But Norman actually doesn't want to do that, and again, just showing the conflicting nature of his character as well, because he goes on to say, so Ray really was a traitor. He wasn't our enemy. He's much more than I expected. He can break the tracking devices, definitely. He can manipulate information freely. He gives us an advantage in restraining Robert. It's not just that he gives all the information he gathers for the escape, inside knowledge of the enemy. And he goes, well, what a trump card, and that gives us a chance to fight. But again, Norman knows that Emma wants to escape with everyone, and Ray doesn't approve of that. So again, and this moment right here, just like when him realizing, oh my god, what I've got to do, I don't think that was actually in the anime, and I feel like just taking that out, it just kind of like takes away a certain aspect from the series that just makes it that much more effective. And again, to add to that, here is where Norman is going through all these options by saying, trick Emma, don't give up on taking everyone, and flashing back to where Emma was crying when she was saying, I can't leave them, and Norman going, it's easy to trick Emma, but it's hard to trick Ray, the smartest thing to do, and he can't think of what to do, and he even admits to himself, Ray is logical and Emma is reckless, again showing like how conflicted and how complex Norman actually is, and how he's not just this Mary Sue type character, and he actually sees like Ray is a much more logical person and thinking much more effectively, and Emma is reckless, but at the same time he can't hurt Emma because he loves her. And again, taking away these inner thoughts takes away a bit from the character that just makes him that much more three-dimensional. And again, Norman pretty much is in Emma's corner, even though he thinks that it's not the best solution, by saying this right here. I want to be like her. I want to bring everyone with us, but again, he knows that it's actually going to be very difficult in this regard, and later on he thinks like, maybe I could trick Ray, but it's going to be very difficult, and he even admits that, but he's going to try his best to do it. Again, showing the shady nature of his character, and even though he's in Emma's corner, he's going to lose like underhanded tactics to get what he wants. Again, showing that he's not just this Mary Sue type character that I think the anime is trying to present him as. He's this very multi-layered, three-dimensional character that has very shady nature about him. Now again, moving on, the moment with Ray and Mama, that's pretty much verbatim, word for word, the same in the manga, which again I like, but again it adds another aspect of the anime that's a major problem in my regard. Again, it adds things that weren't established in the previous episode. Like, if you remember in the previous few chapters before Ray was discovered to be the traitor, they mentioned that Crone was acting on her own, and they not only mentioned that, but they actually showed her, like right here, Crone acting on her own. But the fact that they didn't show that in the actual episode, in the last episode, it kind of takes away from the fact that when Ray goes on to say the biggest issue is your assistant, she's on the move again, and it's like, great, that's great that you actually mentioned that. It's appeared that the anime viewers never actually got to see that, and by taking away from that, it kind of takes away an aspect from the series. Like, they're trying to recapture the same feeling that they get in the manga, but by taking out aspects, but acting like, oh no, this actually happened, it kind of takes away from something. It's nice to actually see those things, and then from Ray to actually relay that information. It shows that again, like, they're actually being observant and they're not being stupid, and they're actually going to report on this. And now we come to one of the big problems of the anime. It's this moment right here, all this page right here with Ray when he's discussing his true feelings, where he goes, I've decided on that day how to use my remaining time. I was about to be 6 years old. I had 6 years to live. Again, showing that he is smart, and he can pick up on things even at a young age. That he was able to think like, okay, all of the kids, they are going away, and we don't see them again when they're 12. Okay, so there has to be something wrong. So I've got 6 years to live. And he goes on to think to himself, there's a limit to how many lives I can save. That's the reality of this world. Again, it adds adds more to the Ray's character, showing that no, even though he would want to bring everyone with it, and deep down, like this moment right here where he says there is a limit to how many lives I can save, that is the reality of this world. He knows that he's seeing it from the logical side. Like, we've got these little babies that can't move, and they're gonna be holding us back. He's seeing that logically, even though he knows how painful it is for Emma, one of his best friends, one of it like the siblings that he's closest to. He knows how painful that is for her, but he has to see it in a different way. And he's going on to say, I don't care what you guys want. I won't let Norman or Emma choose the path that leads to their deaths. I won't let them ruin the plan I've spent 6 months building. Again, showing that he does actually honestly care for Norman and Emma, and doesn't want them to die. He doesn't want them to be led to their death. So he's going with the only option that he sees fit at this point, which is he's got to just bring them and Don and Gilda, because they're the ones that can actually move around freely and move around fast. And again, even though he's thinking logically, he can't see the bigger bigger picture of the fact that maybe that he's underestimating the smaller kids. And again, this is further evidence later on where he actually saves Jemima and actually drags her over the canyon when they're actually escaping from the actual Gracefield house. But again, at this point, he can't see from that situation, but at the same time, he doesn't want them to die. Again, showing the complexity of his character. And again, it's a major. It cuts out a major foreshadowing for his character by removing that moment where he says, I won't let them ruin the 6-year plan that I've been building. It takes away from the foreshadowing of when he actually tries to burn himself, to give Emma the opportunity to actually escape, because at that point, Norman had been shipped out. They didn't know what happened to him, and he felt like, screw this, I'm not being meat. I'm going to let Emma escape and give her a chance to survive and just go on, save everyone, get out here, be the leader that you need to be. Don't worry about me. But again, because he was thinking logically, like, okay, Norman's gone. I can burn myself and give Emma a chance to escape because I don't want her to die. And if anyone has to die, it has to be me, because I sold her out. So I have to give her the opportunity to escape themselves. And again, taking away that little moment there where he says that, it's like it takes away a bit from his character and a bit from foreshadowing that could have potentially been built up later on in the anime. And once again, going back to moments that could have been. At this point, I've given up on hope that they're actually going to reveal Mama's number. I feel like they're not going to make her be Cattle, or they're just going to reveal it with Crone. And if they reveal it with Crone, then I'm actually going to be mightily pissed off. Now again, going back to the anime and adding in filler bits, we get the bit where Norman has that nightmare sequence where he has the demon mama behind him. But the way it's done in the anime, it just kind of doesn't make any sense, because they had him running along a corridor, and in this and they could have included these moments here where he's actually thinking to himself and relaying information to himself. I put down in my notes that it takes away important character traits in favour of filler bits where it could have been added in. And that's what I mean by, like, when he was running through that corridor, they could have added bits in, because he's going through his options here where he says, trick Emma, and he flashes back to what Ray says, and he goes, I don't want to. I want to fulfill Emma's wishes, and I also don't want to give up on taking everyone. I have to pretend to trick Emma and instead trick Ray. Again, showing that he has a very grey area about him, and a moral code, but he's going to use it he's going to get to it in very shady ways, and it just adds again to more of Norman's character. And the moment in the anime, it's done really well. It's a really horrific moment, but it's more horrific in the manga because of this moment right here, where Norman is just around everyone. He's like dead set around everyone that's just dead, and again showing the possibility of what could happen if they actually failed in this mission. But again, having him just run through a corridor and then just find everyone, it's not as effective. And by having him standing in a pool of everybody's bodies, that's really much more effective, and it's a much more horrific experience for him to actually go through and witness this. Now the moment pretty much plays out the same. It's just this moment right here with the actual demon in the anime. It has the demon opening its mouth rather than it just being open right there and then. And one thing that's actually cut out of the anime is the Sister Crone monster, which they could have easily just added that bit in. There was no reason to cut it out, and that would have made it much more terrifying and much more effective. They could have just had, rather than having the monster just open its mouth, they could have had the monster open its mouth and had its mouth open, and then just have the Crone monster just appear behind it. But no, they decided to just cut. They decided to just cut out, even though Crone's as much of a threat as Mama is at this point. Now again, as they're going through the tests, Norman is relaying in the manga. Norman is relaying the options he's got at this point, and this wasn't included in the anime. He says that I'll get Rei to cooperate. I'll also give Emma what she wants, but if I make one mistake, Rei, Mama, and Sister Crone will all get in the way, and it'll be impossible to escape with everyone. We'll all die. And he goes, think, Rei is my trump card. If I can use him to take everyone, we can all at the very least escape from here. This is huge. How can I have us all escape without Rei finding out? Again, showing that he's in a difficult position, and he's going to use shady tactics, because he knows that if he fails, then it's all over, game over, and they're all dead. And by him just emphasizing again and again how much of an impossible task this is, it again builds up on the tension. But by taking that away from the anime, it kind of takes away from the tension that actually makes the arc that much more impactful. Now, one thing that they actually did cut out as well is Mama praising Don and Gilda and Phil, and the reason why that's a big issue that they actually cut out is again, it just adds to the tension, because now Mama is suspecting Don and Gilda at this point, and we get this really creepy scene of Mama just like creeping up on Don and Gilda and saying like, you did well. This is wonderful, keep up the good work. But she's also just hammering in like, I know that something's going on, and you two could be two of the people that are planning to escape as well. And it just shows just how much of a tight grip that Mama has on the orphanage. But also, going back to Phil, the fact that they cut out moments with Phil just again cuts out his importance later on, because he effectively, once Emma and the big kids leave, he effectively becomes the big brother of the farm, because because they focus so much on the moments with him and him running around, even though they were subtle and they weren't focusing on him all that much. The fact that they did have focus on him specifically get everyone to think like maybe he knows more than he actually lets on, and eventually reveals that he knows everything. He's been observing everyone and thinking like, wait a minute, this something's going on here, and he overhears what's actually going on, and he decides to stay behind to help out the other kids to eventually become the position that Emma, Rei, and Norman had when they were there. But again, cutting out his importance, and again cutting out foreshadowing for his character later on. Now, pretty much the rest of the episode plays out pretty much as the manga does with the rest of Volume 2. Except by taking a few big points out, which I'll get into in a bit, and also taking out all the inner dialogue as well. But aside from that, pretty much Volume 2 goes by verbatim for the rest of the episodes. But the moments that I really want to highlight here are the moments when Rei's just revealing to Emma and Norman that he's the traitor, and Emma observing the fact that Rei's going on by saying, don't worry, it's different now. Norman figured out I was the traitor and convinced me. This time I'll definitely help you escape with everyone. And Emma going, but it's not like you, Rei. If you don't initially change your mind about something, you never do. And to take out that little observation of Emma's part, it kind of takes away a certain aspect from her character that she can keep up with them, and she is just as observant as them about things that are going on. Now, another moment that I want to highlight is the moment when Emma is absolutely pissed. In the manga, because it's not in the manga. Well, basically, in the manga and the anime, because it's played during the day, the manga has a much more distinctive finish because they can add the dark shading on here to emphasize how much of an importance this moment is. But by having it during the day in the anime, they kind of have to like use sneaky tactics by just using the shadows of the trees. But I feel like that this would be one of the moments where I would be happy with it just taking place at night, like just taking place at a sunset, so that we could get like the full rate of this moment. And I feel like Emma's voice actress I don't feel like she just does the moment justice. I feel like she had to be really much more deeper and serious, even though she was serious, and it was like, oh my god, this moment is sort of coming out, and I can sort of see what they're trying to go with here, but at the same time it just has that little bit that just keeps it from like being absolutely perfect, even though it gets the point of course, like showing like Emma is not just this happy-go-lucky girl. Like she can be actually serious, and she can be like really aggressive at times, and Ray even actually points out that in the episode as well, that she was surely mad. And even though I can see it, like the intention of it, the fact that because of the way the setting was, that it was actually at the day, it just doesn't work as well in the anime as it did in the manga. And another thing that was actually cut out was basically the line from Norman after Ray goes, Emma sure was mad. It goes, Norman goes, but she held it in because she understands how you must have felt frightened alone for such a long time. The fact that they cut out that entire line again cuts out one of the most telling lines of Emma's character. The fact that she is so much walking a tightrope right now that any moment could actually make a snap, and it shows that why she is the protagonist, because she has the ability to not only bring everyone together, but at the same time one little mistake and she could tear everyone apart. But the fact that she's constantly holding in, and she's constantly battling her own demons of not to break and not to be pushed over the edge, it says a lot more for her character just in that one line of dialogue than pretty much a lot more than was actually said in like a paragraph of dialogue from Emma herself. And the fact that they cut out that line again cuts out a very important aspect of her character, that she is constantly walking a tightrope and she could break at any moment. Now moving along, one thing that was actually cut out, which I felt was really disappointed, was when they're actually discussing when Mama actually keeps a secret room, Emma, Ray, Donna and Gilda and Norman. They actually cut out, but what about the key? If it is a room that Mama keeps secrets, then it's probably locked, showing again that Don and Gilda, they're not stupid. And the fact that Mama actually mentioned like, oh, they've gotten smarter earlier on, shows that no, they aren't stupid, and they're actually thinking of observations. And by cutting out that little observation of the door being locked, makes Don and Gilda to be a little bit blindly stupid, because again, you would think that they would have brought that up in the episode rather than going like, oh, it's impossible, but we've got to try and get in, we've got to try and get into that room. It might be possible, it might not. But by taking out that little aspect, again, it just seems like they're being blindly stupid. Now, I understand why they're being like this, because they're being driven by their emotions to go and save Connie, even though it's impossible at this point. But again, they should have been like thinking chronologically, okay, Mama obviously has a key, so she's obviously locking the door, so we need to get the key off Mama. But the fact that they don't mention that at all, that just kind of like pissed me off and made them think like, no, Don and Gilda are much better than this. And because they cut out that one little aspect of it, it cuts out various aspects of Don's character. Like, he doesn't even have to say anything, but you can tell just how much effort they've put on the expressions here, how he's getting more and more desperate, particularly in that panel right there, this panel right there, and then eventually it's just like, I'm going to go and prepare dinner, showing, again, it's just showing that he's just being pushed to the edge, and it's like he doesn't think that Emma, Ray and Norman are actually doing enough to actually go and save Connie. And he's, even though like I said, he's driven by his emotions, at least in this context, you can actually see like how much more desperate he's actually getting. And for Ray to actually be told, for Ray to actually tell Dawn to go and make dinner rather than him just outright saying, I'm gonna go and make dinner, it just makes him out to be much more stupid and have no incentive on his own, unlike in the manga where he's like seeing like, okay, these guys obviously have something to hide, they're not telling me, so I'm just gonna take matters into my own hands. I do not care. And again, it's like he's letting his emotions get the better of him, but again, because they've actually mentioned the door, he's not going to do, we're like, okay, he's not going to do anything stupid, he's not just going to actually go for the door, he's actually going to get the means to actually open that door, and eventually find out, okay, let's see what these guys are actually hiding. And again, Gilda picks up on this as well, because she's even though she's not being as open about it, you can actually tell from her emotional expression in the manga that she's like, okay, they're obviously hiding something, and we need to find out as well. And the fact that in the episode, I'll get back into more points there, but the fact in the episode that they actually cut out this bit right here with the key. I know I'm getting a bit ahead in this regard, but the fact that they cut out that moment with the key, with Dawn actually getting the key, again just shows just like, oh my god, they're just gonna go and just try to open that door and see if they can actually get in there somewhere. And sure enough, they actually do at the end of the episode. That's how the episode ends, on an anime cliffhanger. So now we get to the moments that I actually cut out the most. The whole William Minerva thing was actually cut out. Now, I don't know if this is actually intentional. I'm actually gonna spend half the next episode discussing William Minerva and discussing what's on the outside. But because it was cut here, I feel like it actually needs to be addressed. And again, that could have been a really good cliffhanger to end it on. The cliffhanger of them actually finding out about William Minerva and finding out, okay, there's an ally on the other side that can actually help us out. And again, it's taken away a little bit from Emma's character in the actual episode itself. Now, I don't know if this is actually going to be included in the next episode or not. We'll just have to wait and see. But again, the cliffhanger of Dawn actually seeing the key, like I just mentioned, that could have been a really interesting cliffhanger to end it on. But again, they're like, no, we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna have Dawn and Gilda, go straight into actually going to Mama's secret room without the key. And basically the moment it goes into volume 3, but the moment plays out verbatim, but without the aspects of having the key. It just makes it feel that much more sharp. It makes them feel like they're just being blindly, stupidly moved by emotions. And the fact that in the episode itself, that it actually has to end with them like coming with like the door actually open and somebody coming into the room, which we know is going to be either Phil or one of the young kids. It's not going to be Mama. Mama's not going to be in that moment, because they have to get into the actual cellar itself to find out the truth. I don't think it's going to be Mama, so it's either going to be Phil or Nate or Tom or Lime. That's actually going to be in the room. But the fact. But in the actual manga itself, they do have a moment where somebody actually comes into the room and it is Mama, but that's after they're in the actual dungeon, the dungeon themselves, and they're thinking, oh, Mama's coming, so we have to get out as much as possible, as quickly as possible. And the fact that the fact that we don't see them for a while after that, it just adds to the tension. But this moment right here, that they added this anime filler episode just to end on an anime cliffhanger, it just kind of takes away from when Mama actually enters the room again. It's just kind of going to take away that moment. But anyway, guys, that's what I wanted to say about the episode. And again, it's starting off really strong, the episode, by adding bits in, but it just kind of like spiraled out of control by just adding anime bits in, taking out important moments that really help the characters. And again, I'm not the only one that thinks that. Control Chaos have been actually adamantly vocal about this as well, and people think that I'm just blindly hating on the anime. I'm not as well. I want the anime to succeed. I want it to be great, but they're just doing so much stuff that just aggravates me and frustrates me. And it's still I wouldn't say great adaptation, but it's still a decent adaptation. And if you just want to watch the anime, that's fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. But this is more for like differences between the manga and the anime that people like myself, or maybe I'm just the only person that thinks this way. Because I know Tekken, who loves the manga as well, he actually doesn't see any major problems with the anime. But I feel like others like me, if there are any others like me, they probably would be thinking the same thing. Like, the anime is just not doing the manga justice for us that actually love and respect the manga. And the major difference is that they're just taking out so much of the inner dialogue that takes away so much of the cat and mouse game and the mind games that made the manga, particularly the first arc, so captivating and so intriguing, and why people kept coming back week on week on week to see what the characters are going to be thinking about, and how their inner thoughts are going to affect their actions later on. But anyway, guys, that's all I wanted to say. I know this was kind of a scattershot discussion, but again, I just had to get my thoughts out, because that moment when they ended on an anime cliffhanger, that just like really irritated me, where they could have ended on the moment where Don actually got the key and he was saying to go, let's find out what is actually really going on here. And again, it takes away from Don's initiative to act on his own, despite Norman, Ray and Emma telling him, like, no, do not act like that, listen to us. And it shows that he's not just blindly following people, and again, he doesn't just blindly follow Emma, Ray and Norman in the anime, but again, the fact that he took his own initiative, and the fact that he didn't need to be told to go and set up dinner, he was going to do it on his own in the manga, kind of takes away a bit from his character, that's showing like he's someone who just doesn't feel who just feels like he's being undermined. And he even says this when he confronts Emma, Ray and Norman later, that he's being undermined and he thinks that they're not being trusting of him, and the fact that they took away from his character, and it just makes me feel upset that they're just taking away aspects of the character that just makes them so three-dimensional, just making them cardboard cut-out characters. But and they may not seem like cardboard cut-out characters to you, but compared to the characters in the manga, the characters in the anime, they just feel shallow, and they don't feel as fleshed out and as complex as they could be. But anyway, guys, what did you think of this episode? Let me know. Like, dislike if you want, and because again, I love you guys. I love you guys that you're actually taking your time to actually watch my videos and actually listen to me. And again, if you like it, that's fine. If you don't like it, if you like the anime and you want to hate on what I'm saying, that's fine. I welcome it. I welcome every single opinion, or every single opinion. But what I don't welcome is when people are just blind saying like, no, you are wrong, without giving any evidence. And I'd like to make it discussions with you guys as well. That's what makes this also fascinating for me as a YouTuber, to actually talk about these things and discuss it with you guys and get your feedback on it, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me. But anyway, guys, that's it, and this will be Lasher Luke signing off. Later, guys.